Hey,
Yo,
what's up, man?
what up, Matt?
How's it going?
Chilling, bro.
That's
You
what I
know,
like to hear.
living that quarantine life.
I hear ya. All right, welcome back to another episode of Footy and Coffee Conversations. Excited for the interview today. A legend
In the flesh,
in the flesh.
virtual
So
flesh.
excited for it. Just to get going, if you want to say your name, say what club you're playing for, what position you are.
My name is. You guys ready for this? My name is Wojtek Wojcik. All right, but I grew up. Growing up, people called me Woj or Voy if you're close family or friends. I am 27 years old and I play for Forward Madison FC
What
in
position?
Madison, Wisconsin. Striker.
There we go.
Striker,
Yeah,
target forward.
I was gonna ask. In pre-game announcements, how
Huh.
often do they just butcher it?
Well, I haven't really heard how they pronounce it here because we haven't had our first league game or anything like that. But in past previous clubs, it's been pretty much all over the place. I've heard it all, so I'm used to it all. So anyway, pretty much anyone pronounces it, I'm okay with. From getting it 100% correct to completely butchering it, it's one of those things where you just have to put up with it. So it's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, at least at home games, maybe the announcer can come up before and kind of check with you on the correct
Yeah,
way. And
yeah. In OKC, they did that. Hartford, they did that as well. I mean, once 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 you understand that, like the Polish alphabet is a little bit different. So the reason it's spelled WOJ, that's why most people pronounce it Woj. But in the Polish language, the W is a V, and the Y and the J is a Y. So it's Voy instead of Woj. So whichever way you pronounce it, it's all right with me. It's just whether you understand the correlation between the English language in comparison to the Polish language. So the W is a V, the J is a Y, so it's Voy or
look at
Woj,
that. We're
whichever
getting
one.
an educational lesson right off the bat. I like
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
All
So
right,
what's going on with
so
you? Are you in the States or are you overseas?
no, I'm over in Finland right now.
Okay,
So
nice.
just chilling. Obviously, no training. Waiting to get back whenever they give us the okay.
Can you hear
So
me okay? Or
yeah,
okay.
yeah, you're
All
good.
right.
You're good. All right. So obviously you said your name's Polish. So talk a little bit about where you were born, how you ended up coming to the United States.
I was born on May 31st, 1992, in Poland, in a small town called Dąbrowa Tarnowska, which is an hour east of Kraków, which is the second biggest city, one of the big three or four big cities in Poland. I was 3 months old when I came to the United States, dude. So I can't really tell you much about my experiences that I remembered because I was a baby. But uh, we got uh, we got a visa through, or no, we had our green card through my grandpa because my grandpa's mother was born in the U.S. and then they were over there for a bit, and then they ended up coming back. So we ended up getting a visa through my grandfather, um, and then we ended up coming over here in '92, and ever since then we've been in Chicago. Um, and yeah, I mean Chicago itself was a pretty ethnic city, I would say, in terms of population, the Polish population. I mean, I don't know if this is correct or not. Don't quote me on this, but I think like Chicago is one of the biggest, or most populated Polish cities after like the capital of Poland, which is Warszawa. So there's a lot of Polish people in Chicago. I think that was the reason why we kind of came here because we knew a lot of people that were immigrating here. We had an opportunity to just try something new, and it worked out for us. I mean, we grew up right around like the Belmont and Central area, which is pretty much Polak Central.
Yeah.
And then we ended up making our way a little bit out further. So, but yeah, I born in Poland, raised in Chicago. I still speak the language fluently. It was a Polish-speaking household growing up. I have one sister, but it was my sister and both our parents living in, so the four of us. And my mom is one of four. My dad is one of nine.
Oh wow.
And my mom's entire side of the family, with the exception of her grandparents or my grandparents, her parents are back in Poland, and then my dad's youngest brother is here in America, and then everyone else is back in Poland. So I have a lot of close immediate family here in terms of like aunts and uncles and stuff. Distantly removed as well, because family friends are aunts and uncles too when you're Polish. So we got plenty of family and friends around in Chicago, and a lot more family in Poland. So we do a decent amount of a really good job of keeping in touch with everybody, and making sure that everyone. Drew Connor, what up, Drew?
Yeah, that's high praise from Drew Connor being called a legend.
Yo, not many people know this, but Drew and I are the original fire freestylers, and shout out to Tony Keys, who started that whole movement. That was so much fun when we were playing in the academy in the Chicago Fire, which we'll hopefully get to later. But yeah, so grew up in Poland, born in Poland, grew up in Chicago. Now transitioning kind of more to the soccer phase. I actually started playing basketball first when I was young. I had a neighbor, basketball and baseball, but it was never really organized. It was more just for fun. I had a neighbor, a Puerto Rican neighbor. Him and his grandfather used to just. He was really good. You know how they have the hitters that can hit. They know how to hit pop flies.
Yeah.
The ground balls. They could literally hit a ball like exactly how they want.
Uh-huh.
That's what we used to do in the alley. So they gave me a mitt, and we would just practice throwing the ball to each other, playing basketball because you had a rim, and then. There was this local Polish club team. I don't know if you ever played against them, but they're kind of a big deal in Chicago. They're called AAC Eagles, and they've been around for a long time. And so there was a club team that the AAC Eagles was having. They had club teams that were doing some soccer practice, and my uncle took me and my cousin to one of those trainings. I couldn't even tell you how old I was. I think I was maybe 7 or 8 or 6 or 7, something like that. I was very young, and ever since then, that first training, it was pretty much soccer all the way around for me. I was dabbling with obviously both basketball and baseball. The baseball was, like I said, more for fun. In high school, I played basketball. I was a freshman on the sophomore team, but then things started getting serious. Eagles Schwab and big Chicago matchup, yeah. And then I lost my train of thought. The soccer was almost always number one for me ever since I started going to Eagles practice. And once things started moving, it was one of those things where I knew from a very young age what I wanted to do with my life, and that was to become a professional footballer. I would sleep with the soccer ball at my bedside and wake up, and the first thing I would do is obviously go to school, and after school do my homework, and then just literally train all day, every day. Whether that was by myself in a house, juggling, listening to music and learning new freestyle moves, bouncing the balls off the wall on freshly painted walls, and my parents just losing their minds, or whether it was outside. There was a high school not too far from us called Garen Prep, and they used to have a little patch of grass over there with like a little nice hill. So I was very set and goal driven on becoming a professional soccer player. That was my dream, and I made a promise to myself when I was very young that I would not give up until I got there. And now I'm here, which is really cool, to be able to have lived through it, through some good times, through some bad times, and seeing it all through. But so most of my adolescent life I grew up playing with AAC Eagles, and you could feel free to interrupt at any point if you got questions or whatever. I'm just gonna kind of freelance it and go off of.
Hey, you do your thing, man.
So I ended up playing most of my adolescent life with AAC Eagles. I had a really good coach that I actually keep in touch with now. He has his own academy. His name is Tomek Drążek, and he was my coach growing up, with another guy called Robert Stein, who played professionally overseas in Argentina and played in Poland. They actually both played in Poland. So Tomek played in. He was a product of Pogoń Szczecin, which is first division team in Poland. He grew up in their academy, and their first team played over there, came over here, and then started helping out with AAC Eagles. Same thing with Robert. He played somewhere over in Argentina. I think he played in Poland as well. So they had a lot of good background, and in terms of helping us develop into the players that we wanted to be. And right around, I would say maybe late middle school, before high school, that was right around the time when the Chicago Fire Academy was created. and they were hosting tryouts, and Tomek Drążek, I have to thank him a lot for being able to take care of not only myself but the entire team that we had, and he was very adamant about making sure that we all go try out, at least show ourselves to these coaches, because it was a great opportunity, and that's kind of what happened. I ended up going and on the tryout and not placing, but I went not placing the first time, but I went to a couple more trials and then ended up making it as a developmental player, and that's how I placed. So basically, right around the time around like the end of middle school, beginning of high school, I want to say maybe freshman year, sophomore year, I realized that if I were to be able to make this team, I would be able to be one step closer to being where I wanted to be, and that's how I saw it, and that's what I wanted to do with my life. And like I said, I completely devoted myself, obviously outside of taking care of everything I needed to do academically and with the family. That's kind of what my MO was, and being placed on the developmental roster was a challenge, obviously, because you want to be on the first team, but it was good to be able to see and compete with all the local talent around, and I knew where I wanted to be, and I knew how I needed to get there, and I saw the amount of talent that was being placed in the first teams, and also that was competing to be part of the first team. So that was a really good challenge for me, because at that point I pretty much doubled down. I was playing with the Eagles. I was training with the Eagles, playing with the Eagles. I was training with the Fire Academy as a developmental, going to their training sessions. Tomek, the coach from AS Eagles, he also had a men's amateur league team in the Polish league called Podlasie, and the assistant coach Robert Stein was also playing for them too.
Oh, wow.
So he would tell like the guys that made the cut to come train with us. So there was a handful of us that would go. And then I would be playing on my high school team. So in between AS Eagles, in between Podlasie, in between high school and Fire Academy, I was playing on 3 or 4 teams.
Jeez.
Yeah, shout out to my parents and my dad for always taking, and my friends' parents for always carpooling and making the sacrifices and commitments for us to be able to follow our dreams. That's a big.
And those aren't necessarily right next door to each other, training places.
No. So my dad works on the south side, and so he would have to drive back home to the west side, and then back down to Toyota Park where we trained. So it was a lot on him. But then once I got my license, I was able to do my own thing. So, but there was a period in time where we had to drive back and forth. And my parents, I thank them for that, because without them, I don't think I would definitely not be here. So, like I was saying, between those 4 club teams, it was a lot, but I loved it. It was one of those things where I was able to do a lot on my high school team because we weren't very good. We had a decent team, but it wasn't anything to the level of like my AC Eagles team, or obviously not a Fire Academy team. But it was good because I got to see a lot of different angles and a lot of different perspectives, because I was playing different positions. So, I mean, you only know me as a striker, but when I was growing up, I was a left back.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
and that's how I ended up starting. That's how I started playing with the Fire Academy. I was playing as like a center back with the Eagles, and they would throw me up as like a holding mid. High school, I was pretty much like the number 10. I mean, I was the playmaker, but I was able to go all over the place. And then Podlasie, I was more of like playing in the men's league team. I was more of like a role player. So I got to experience all different kinds of things. I got to be the guy in high school. I got to be the role player where, I wasn't getting consistent amount of time, but I was trusted enough by my coach to be able to play a specific role or position, whether that was a left back or whether that was a left winger or striker or whatever it was. And so, like I was saying, I got to experience a lot of different playing positions and a lot of different perspectives and angles, and I got a grasp of fully understanding the game and from different positions. And then eventually I ended up making it to the first team with the academy. And then at that point I had to choose between whether I wanted to play basketball or soccer. And at that point that was an easy decision to make. And then I started kind of I committed 100% to the Fire Academy because that was my best chance of going pro, or being seen to go to the next level.
Right.
So I didn't really. I kept in touch with everyone in my high school team and Eagles and all that, but I put all those other teams aside, except I would maybe play with Podlasie at the time as well, just because that was a really good experience because it was older dudes and I was 15, 16, you know, so that was a different game for me. So I was 100% committed to playing with the Fire Academy, and then whatever time I got, I ended up going back to playing with one of those two teams. And yeah, I mean, the Fire Academy was great. It was great because there was no cost associated with being a part of the team. You know, the first team took care of all the costs, which is great, and something that helped out my parents financially. Obviously, not having to pay to play, but
Yeah.
it was great because I was young, and I was part of a team where I was competing with the best local talent in Chicago, and I was able to make a lot of good friends, and we would compete against a lot of good teams and go to different showcases, and obviously met a lot of different people and coaches that were also part of helping me take that next step. And yeah, man, it was just a lot of fun, dude. A lot of fun to be able to compete with guys like Drew Connor, Harry Shipp, Chris Ritter. I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but Connor Holloway, Chris Prince.
Some big names.
Victor Pineda, he was big time coming up. Not to mention Fire. Yeah, we were stacked, bro. We were stacked, but we unfortunately couldn't win anything. We got so close so many times. And
what's the story with you and Drew, the originals?
The original Fire freestylers. So
yeah, what's that?
We would Tony Keys was the original coaches were Louis Mateus, who was the head coach. And then there was Alex Hernandez, which we all called Flex, TK, which is Tony Keys, and I'm forgetting maybe a couple more guys. But our coach was Tony Keys and Flex, and Flex was more of the it was like a good cop, bad cop routine. Flex was the really, really hard guy who pushed us all, and he didn't really care who you were. If you were messing up, he would tell you, which is really good. We all needed that. And then TK was more the technical guy, and he was they all had really good session plans. It was just the different personalities with both of them mixed in really well together. And we ended up sometimes staying after training just to, you know, get some extra work in with TK, and TK would always help us out. And we ended up making like a juggling video. And we ended up having, I think it's on YouTube still right now. I think if you type in like Fire Freestylers, I forget what year it was. Maybe
I'll try to link it.
06 or 07 or 08. I don't know. If Drew's still on, he could probably tell you what year that was. But we made two of them, actually. And the first one we made indoors, I can't remember where it was. I think it was in Barrington somewhere, to this like really cool acoustic instrumental. It was so dope. And then we ended up making another one. We were on a road trip somewhere, I think on a showcase we were playing. And we ended up doing another one, and it was kind of like a little bit more story to it, where it was like Drew, I was walking past, Drew was like just juggling the ball, and it was edited to where I was like walking across, and I like double taked, and I saw Drew, and Drew saw me, and he gave me like a what's up, and I was like, yo, what's up? And he shows me the ball, and I'm like, yo, let's go. And then we ended up doing like all these cool freestyles.
We need to get that back out. People need to see that.
I think it's up there somewhere. I can't remember what it's called. I'm gonna have to find it and send it over to you guys. But and then there was like, you know how in Space Jam there was the magic water, the magic juice.
Yeah.
We did one of those things where you had the ice. Drew got injured, and then we took him to the athletic trainer, and TK had the magic spray, and then we ended up getting back out to the field. So it was fun times, definitely great times.
Did you ever go through one of TK's core workouts? Did he ever put you through those?
I can't remember if I've ever done one of those core workouts. We probably end up doing something.
He was my PDL coach, and he like brought out this DVD of him of doing these workouts, and he made us do it. And yeah. I was so impressed at his age. He was killing all of us young guys.
TK was like the fittest guy, I think, in comparison to like every other coach that I've had. Like, super fit. So he was always about being about staying active and staying healthy, and that's kind of one of the things that I took away from TK is just being able to TK90 core. That's what it was. Was that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'm pretty sure we ended up doing some core work with TK, but we used to do some crazy stuff when we were at the academy. We used to do strength so we used to go inside the locker rooms, like where the first teams were, and between the away locker room and the home locker room, they would split us into 2 groups, and we would do insanity. And I think it was 2 or 3 groups, like rotating at a time. So there was one group that was in the hallway doing like either ball work or some sort of med ball toss or some sort of explosive work, and the other group was in the locker room, in the home locker room or the away locker room of the at Toyota Park doing insanity. And we would rotate. So if you were the second group or the third group going in, dude, when you walked into that locker room, it just reeked of straight sweat, and it was, but it was super cool, man. It was like, and Flex would be in there, TK would be in there. Dude, Drew is literally commenting. Literally, all the experience I'm talking about, it's like Drew was literally right there with me. My dad drove me half an hour to Toyota Park so I could do an insanity DVD workout. Literally, all the way from Crystal Lake. But yeah, if you were the second group in or third group in, you were at that point, like, not only was it very difficult, but you walked into that room and that smell just hit you right in the face. But Flex was in there, TK was in there, and they were pushing you. It was no joke. So they took it very seriously, and it was just a very, very good experience in general. They used to make us do not diary entries, but they were like journals. So we would train, and then like on the weekends when the Fire would play, they would give us all tickets, and we as a group, we would all sit together and we'd watch them play. And depending on your specific position, or they would tell you a position, or you could pick a position or player to watch, you would have to, track his movement, put a plus where he had a good positive. Like they would give you a sheet of paper with the
oh wow, you were doing stats for the team.
Literally, and you would say like, okay, if it was for me, it was Brian McBride always, and I would track his play, like, okay, good hold up play out wide, made a good run in the box, okay, lost the ball, negative right here, or minus point right here, something like that. So that was another cool thing that I remember just off the top of my head that we used to do. What else did we used to do?
I just real quick want you said you were the man in high school. And I feel like you're underselling yourself. I saw a 50-point season, 19 goals and 12 assists.
Yeah, I mean,
don't sell yourself short on that.
It was high school ball. It was great. It was so much fun, man. Like those are the days where we you're discovering who you are as a person. You're meeting new people. You're balling with your boys. So obviously, it was a different type of competition.
Yeah.
I wasn't really ever going to lose my spot, but it was because of all the experiences I've had playing with, Fire and the men's league team and Eagles. I was on a little bit of a different level compared to the guys that were playing at high school, and the game was it was slowed down for me basically because we trained at such high intensities at all the other clubs. The game just came so slow to me. I was able to read everything so much easier and get out of pressure or be able to do a lot more. So yeah, I did have a good couple of years in high school.
Yeah.
And that was so much fun. I don't remember as much of the goals as much as I do the experience and playing with all my friends and growing up together for those 4 years. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, man.
I feel like that's the best part of high school ball is just like being with your friends and like going from school to a game and all that. It's just it's a fun experience.
Too many fun times, dude.
All right, so I want you to get into then where you decided to go to university. What that decision making was like, and then kind of like the first year experience. Were you starting right away, that type of thing?
Okay, so in between me making the first team and then obviously there was a transition year where I think a bunch of the Magic guys came over with Soleil, who was the coach, who was also a fantastic coach. That was another point in time for me where I was like, oh crap, I made the first team, and now all of a sudden, all these dudes are coming in. This was like Brian Lunar, Harry Shit, Chris Ritter, all these dudes that ended up signing like homegrown contracts. Yeah. They ended up Tyler Angle. They ended up coming over, and they were basically forming a new team with Soleil, so I had to try out again, and thankfully I made the cut there, and that was the time when I transitioned to being from playing as a defender to a striker, and I couldn't even remember, dude, how that happened, bro. Like, I was bigger. I was always a bigger guy, but I was always slow. So there was one game where I think they just threw me up top, and I just started scoring goals, and then I would come on either as a sub or I would get the time to be able to do something on the field, and ever since then I was recruited as a striker, and there was a couple of teams that were interested. Like I wanted to stay close to home, not too close to home, to where I can get like the college experience, but also be close enough to something. If I wanted it or needed to go back home, I could. So
right,
I was interested in all the UICs and the DePauls and the Bradleys, which is where I eventually still holds the record. Oh man, Drew is literally knocking these comments out of the park right now. So I was interested in all the DePauls and the UICs and the Bradleys, who I ended up committing to. And at a point in time, there was Georgetown was an option as well, but academically, I wasn't strong enough to get in. But Bradley was kind of it hit a sweet spot for me, because when I went on the visit at the time, I mean, the stadium is beautiful. Shea Stadium is awesome. It's a grass field. They take very good care of it, and everything was just it all lined up. Everything was lined up perfect for me to be able to do what I wanted to do, and there was a lot of great players that were playing there at the time: Christian Meza, Keith Mock, Brian Gall, Bobby Smith. There was just a lot of good players. So
yeah.
That was my reasoning for going to Bradley, was that it was close, and it was a very good program that produced a lot of professional players, and they were successful in terms of getting to the NCAAs and winning conference tournaments and all that type of stuff. So I committed to Bradley, and it was kind of the first year in terms of the transition year was kind of tough. I mean, I've obviously gotten to experience playing with older guys and all that, but this was different. This was the playing college where you were a student athlete, where you had to take care of things academically, and things were a little bit more rigorous in terms of the academics and the athletics as well. So after passing the fitness test, which was not too easy, dude, it was a 2-on-1. I mean, I bet every college has their way of doing things, but ours is pretty difficult.
Bradley's notorious, I feel like, for your fitness. You guys.
Yeah, I mean, so what I'm trying to get at now is we definitely had a style of play that was different from everyone else, in the sense that 2010 we were playing, dude, 2010 to 14, we were a man marking team. We man marked for my 4 years of college, and we started playing in a flat back four, in like zonal flat back four. We were like a straight up 4-4-2. My freshman year, and I got a decent amount of time, but it was difficult for me to transition into a different system, a man marking system. It took a while for me to be able to buy into that, and not only myself, but a decent amount of the freshman class that was there too. It's not many of us growing up are conditioned to man mark. I mean, obviously, you have your drills, but this was like, the way we did it was we picked their best 2 or 3 guys team, and we put our best 2 or 3 defenders on them, and that was it. We played with a sweeper pretty much. That was a center back, and those 3 guys pretty much just try to take their best guys out of the play. Our 3 defenders try to take their best 3 guys out of the game, and whether that was a striker dropping 20 yards to get the ball, that defender was dropping 20 yards to go with him, and it was very, very unorthodox, but it was successful. I mean, credit to Jim DeRose. I don't know. I mean, they don't play man marking anymore, just because it doesn't. I don't think it works anymore, to be honest. I think the level overall of all college teams and players, I think has risen to be able to understand and recognize the numbers game and how to play around that type of stuff. So it took me a while to be able to transition into and buy into the Bradley way. We started playing in a flat back four, but we just got waxed, dude. We would get destroyed, and it was at a point of time where it was like it was very sensitive it was very time sensitive. Like we needed to figure out a way to start winning because we were dropping too many points in the tournament or in conference games and all that stuff. So our captain was like, dude, coach, we just want to do whatever we need to do to win. And he's like, are you guys sure? He's like, we're going to go back to man marking if that's the case. And we're like, all right, let's do it. And we ended up winning our conference tournament, beating Creighton in the conference tournament on a sick goal by Keith Mock. And it was just unreal. The experiences playing against a team like Creighton, where at that point I think they were in the old Big East, and they had like really, really good players that were playing, and we beat them in our stadium. And we ended up drawing Tulsa first round in the NCAA tournament. We ended up losing to Tulsa. But then that first year for me was kind of like I had to buy into a system that I wasn't comfortable with, but I also had to kind of leave my ego off to the side and just be like, all right, this is better for the collective group. And it paid off in the end. So it wasn't really too difficult in terms of transitioning from like sophomore, junior year to be able to stay with the man marking because we were successful at it. So, and we recruited well as well. So we had guys like Brian Gall, Christian Meza, Aiden Quinn, who was with us freshman year, but he transferred to Akron after. Christian Okeke, who came later. We had some pretty special attacking players, and we also had Jason Kuhn, Zach Kovakovic, guys that were able to just lock down players. Michael Nat, like Bobby, our captain. These guys, we had the right blend of guys where we could take care of things defensively and then have the right guys to be able to make plays for us and score goals and win games. So our freshman year, we ended up winning our conference tournament and then losing to Tulsa. Sophomore year, we got an at-large. We got an at-large, and we drew, I think, Creighton first round. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we drew Creighton first round. That was when they had Ethan Finley, and dude, just ballers. And we that year, that second year, I'm pretty sure they remembered the loss from the previous year before. So. They gave it to us sophomore year. Junior year, we didn't do too well. We didn't make it. We lost early in the conference tournament, and we didn't make it to the NCAA's. Senior year is kind of where I came, where I had a little bit more. Now, junior, senior year is where we're transitioning into. Now I'm an upperclassman. Now I'm the guy that is seen as a leader amongst. We had a freshman class of 13, and I think we had like 9 or 10 by our junior senior year. So we had a good senior class going into 2014, and for us, we were coming off a losing season, and we wanted to make sure that we left our legacy, and that's what Jim DeRose and Brian Barnett and all the other coaches instilled in us. Is you leave the program you leave it better than what you had it when you came in, and senior year that was my goal. I at no point doubted that I was ever going to make it. I knew that it was going to be very hard. I didn't know what the future was going to hold because it was my senior year. Obviously, there's things outside of soccer, like, academically, what am I going to pursue? And we all struggle with this when we're soccer players graduating. If you've gone the college route or if you haven't, I mean, that's a normal part of life, is trying to understand and trying to figure out, how can I pursue what I love to do, but also be able to, have a backup plan. And for me, like I said, I never doubted that I was going to be able to play pro, but I also needed to take care of what I needed to academically to be able to have that in case something were to happen, because soccer is very unpredictable and you never know what can happen. So my senior year, obviously I took care of the academic stuff, and then literally any free time I had, I was doing work, whether it was whether I was in the gym working out with the coaches, or there was a room right next to the gym. So, and this was when they renovated it all. So we had a new rec center. We had a new place for all the athletes to go, and a whole new strength and conditioning gym. So right next to the gym, there's like storage unit, but it was pretty big, and that's where they kept like the tires and the Vert Maxes and all the stuff. And there was this wall there where it was like maybe a square 7x7, 8x8, pretty decent. Like on one side of a wall here, wall there. And I would go there literally after, yeah. And you know what I regret not like recording myself doing that when I was doing it back then, because I think I would have been able to start something special. But that's what I would literally do. I would finish my homework, finish anything I needed to do, and then either go lift or go get extra touches in. And that was my mission, was to be able to be successful on the field and help the team be successful. And then, you know, if I took care of what we needed to take care of, if we took care of what we needed to take care of and individually take care of what I needed to take care of, I thought that, you know, I would be in a good place to be able to put myself in a position to go to the next level and make that jump.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, you also, I think it showed on the field. You get Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year, and I believe NCAA assist co-leader for that. So obviously that hard work is paying off on the field as well.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to be able to have that pressure too. I mean, that was another thing is, you know, now it's on us. It was on me and the entire senior class to be able to do something and prove to ourselves that we're capable of doing it without the likes of Brian Gall, Christian Meza, or the guys that led us before. And we were able to do that. We had a decent year. We brought in some players like Alan Badad and Aaron Burke and Cody Wilkins, I believe that's his name, but Cody also joined us. And we had a very special team, and we were able to do a lot of cool things and win a lot of cool games. And we actually beat #1 Akron at Akron. I can't remember off the top of my head what other kind of big results we had, but we were able to win our conference tournament. And then we drew Northwestern at Northwestern. And I remember Northwestern for us was always a rival game because we played them maybe once during the fall, but we always played them during the spring. And it was just a very competitive game and very heated because obviously we're Illinois schools and, you know, we were a private school and it's Northwestern, they were Big Ten, so we wanted to prove something. And spring season, we ended up beating them. And then fall season, I think we beat them as well in the regular season. And then we drew them again in the tournament, in the NCAA tournament. And that was like the game where I was like, oh, damn, I literally got everybody coming through. Like I got my parents, I got family, I got coaches. I literally pull up to the stadium. I see Gonzalo Segares. I see guys from the Fire coming because they were trying to recruit. They were trying to see if Chris Ritter was going to be the guy for them as a homegrown, you know. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, you know, these guys, man, like these guys all got the opportunity, or they're getting the look, you know. And for better or for worse, maybe I'm not getting that look. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. Maybe they're taking me into consideration or not. But this is my opportunity to prove them. And we ended up playing Northwestern. We ended up winning 3-2. I scored a brace. I scored the game-winning goal. 2 headers. One of them was a set piece. The other one, I can't remember what it was, but it was unreal, man. It was so much fun, dude. So many people came out to watch us play. All my old coaches were there. Like I was saying, the guys from the Fire were there as well. You know, I don't know how much if the program, like guys were actually seriously scouting Bradley because we were so different. We were like I was saying, we were man marking. It was just very, very weird the way we played, but it was successful, and we ended up winning and beating Northwestern. Then we drew UC Cal Berkeley. Guys like Christian Dean was on that team, who used to play for the Chicago Fire. Steve Birnbaum, who's a national team player now, and he plays for DC United, I think.
I think that's
Alex Sunley, who used to play for the Philadelphia Union. Like, they had a squad, dude. And we ended up going out there, and it was a really, really quick turnaround. So I think we played on a Wednesday or Saturday, and then we flew out to California and played out there, and we ended up losing 2-1, but I ended up scoring. And at that point, I thought it was like, oh, dude, I thought it was it. And then I got a call from my head coach at Bradley Gym, and he was telling me that, actually, I don't even know how this came about. I ended up getting a call from the Seattle Sounders from not the assistant coach who's the head coach now. I forget his name. Anyways, they ended up contacting me, and they wanted to see me play again, because they saw what they saw in the tournament. And so there was a Seattle Sounders combine that they were doing, and they invited a bunch of guys to come out there, and I did my thing over there, and that was good enough for them to be able to invite me to the combine. And I went to the MLS combine, and I was in the whole MLS draft and all that. I thought I showed well, and it just, for whatever reason, didn't go my way. Pause at that point right there. I'm going to take you back half a semester, because that's when I started actually playing with Bridges. So that senior year, the transition from junior year to senior year is when I started playing with Bridges. I heard about him before, but I was in between playing with the Fire. So every offseason I would play with the Fire. And then my junior year, for some reason, I ended up playing with Bridges.
How did you hear about Bridges originally?
Well, we would always train at Soccer City in the off seasons, so I would always go there, and that's kind of where I met Brett and Jeff and Anis. I think Anis was like one of the first dudes I met, and they basically just kind of told me what the situation was with this club. And Cuevas was there still when Cuevas was playing. Actually, okay. I think it was Cuevas and Anis was like the first two dudes that I met, and Colin. And so they ended up telling me how the team works, how Bridges is all like, what their MO is, what they try to do, and obviously try to bridge players from playing in college to the pros. They have their own agent, whatever, blah blah blah. So junior into senior year, I don't know why I didn't play with the Fire, but I ended up going in and playing with Bridges. And I think I went to like one training, and they're like, yeah, this was at the time when the Bridges was doing the European tour, so it's different now because it all kind of changed. Because there's a couple donors that passed away, unfortunately, and then Soccer's kind of took over the whole thing, and now it's mostly like a Soccer's feeder instead of its own entity, where they would take guys from all over and go overseas to go play, and that's kind of how it all started junior year. During the summer, in between, it was like the summer break, and I didn't play with the Fire, and I ended up going and play with Bridges, and we ended up going overseas, and that's kind of how I started that relationship with Bridges. And now fast forward to not making the draft. That was at that point when I didn't make it, is when I signed my contract with Bridges, my representation contract with Bridges, and then I ended up going on trial overseas, and I went overseas to a couple teams that we played for. I went to Young Chile, which at that point Paul Tracy was there, Aaron Nichols was there. There was another guy that was there as well.
That's an old school Bridges legends right there.
That's old school Bridges legends, dude. So they were there because they played. They wanted them to come in, and they actually wanted me to stay when I was over there. They wanted to keep me there, but I told them I had a responsibility to my teammates back overseas to finish out the senior year and see where it goes. So that when I didn't make the draft, those were my leads going in. So I ended up going to Young Sheila, and I think, I don't know, man. At that point, I think his name was TR or something like that. He didn't even let me run the fitness test, and I was pretty upset because obviously it's a lot of financial. You commit to something. To go over there expecting that they give you a fair look, and they don't.
You go halfway across the world, you want a fair shake at it.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just it didn't really work out in my favor. I was upset about it, obviously, but then I went over to Finland and I trialed with Ilves FC, and that's where I got my first contract. I signed my first deal there, and that was an experience, dude, for sure. Similar to like how my parents came from Poland to America, is kind of I went back. So I went from America back overseas, and it was difficult. I mean, everyone pretty much speaks English over there, as you know, like everyone can communicate pretty well, but it was just a different country, different language, different culture. It took time for me to be able to get used to the team, At that point, I was no longer a college player. At that point, I was a fully professional player competing against guys that wanted to be on the field just as bad as I did, and I did well. I mean, obviously, if they weren't interested, they wouldn't have signed me. So I was able to stay over there and fight my way and compete into a starting position. And I started like the first game of the year. It was really weird. I started the first game of the year, I scored, and then it was in between, very inconsistent throughout the rest of the year. And then at the end of the year, I was getting more consistent time, and then ended up scoring as well. So it was good, dude. It was an eye-opening experience because, like I said, I was competing with guys that were much older, much experienced to the pro game. I was no longer a college player, so college from the pros is completely different. And once my time was done with Ilves, I didn't necessarily like not want to be back. I would have considered it, but for me it was just like I just wanted to go home first and then figure out what was next. I've at that point I was dating my aga for a couple of years, and I was missing her and my family and everything. So after the season was done, I needed to go home because I wanted to be back with my loved ones and figure out what was going to happen next. So I ended up coming back home, and that was right around the time where Tim Regan, who was at Indy 11, was the assistant coach there, and his alma mater was also Bradley. So the Bradley connection was what made my was basically who got me my second contract at Indy 11, and this was 2015. I think this was their second year, like being fully professional, or since their inaugural year, and that was. It was fun because I was back home. I was closer. I was in Indy. I was only a couple hours away from seeing my friends and my family. But it was the same situation. It was, I mean, just as well as, what's up, Alex? Alex Salvino. That's the dude I trained back home. He just committed to NDO. Congratulations, Notre Dame.
Congratulations.
So yeah, I got to shout out the Salvinos because they always take care of me, and they're really good people. So Indy is where I started next, and that's where I met up with Don, who was one of my teammates here, and Victor Pineda, who I grew up playing with, and Drew actually came on trial as well. And so there was a lot of familiar faces, and so it was easier to transition to in comparison to Ilves overseas. But it was still difficult. I had to compete with a lot of good players to be able to get a starting position, and we struggled, to be honest, to make the playoffs. We just couldn't get it figured out for whatever reason, but still, it was a very good experience. And we ended up having the club let go of Jürgen Sommer, who was our first coach. Is that Justin Braun? Justin Braun's on. That's the Indy 11 legend right there. And so we ended up letting go of Jürgen Sommer, and then Tim Regan actually took over for a bit. And then funny story, we ended up playing against the Cosmos. And if you talk to Don Smart, or if you talk to any of my teammates from Indy, they roast me for this every time, because I think this was my first goal that I scored for Indy, and it was against the Cosmos, and it was while Tim was coaching. And just my celebration was trash. I'm not gonna lie. I was very happy. First of all, I scored off like a ball that got cleared up in the air. It was like 30 yards up, and I remember that. I tracked it all the way down, and I just one-timed it, and it went in. I was doing like the McGregor, but it didn't look like the McGregor at all. So it was very bad, and I ended up getting a lot of crap for it. Guys like Brad Ring and Don Smart always give me crap for it, but I was very excited. It was a very fun time. Indy's a great city, great club, great following. Brickyard Battalion is unreal. Every time you score a goal, dude, they literally give you a brick and they sign, what game it was. They put the date on it. And they write your name. It's really cool. So the community there and the support for soccer is awesome. I think we averaged like close to 10,000 people every game.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Strong community.
it was really cool, and I saw the ownership and coaches. It was Aga saying, my girl saying I'm still working on the celebration dances. I am. It was a very good experience. The community in general is very strong, and they just love soccer over there. And ownership saw that, and coaches saw that, and we did a very good job of keeping in touch with the community, and they did a really good job of helping support us. So that that whole NASL, man, those were just the days, dude. That was so much fun to be able to play at Indy, for Indy, but also to be able to play against like clubs like the Cosmos and score against the Cosmos, or play against like Raul when he was here, or Marco Senna, or Samaras when he was playing for Rayo OKC, or dude, there was just so many good players, dude, that were playing for them, and the competition was just unreal. Like and to be on the same field as Raul is like
unreal.
The dude is like, yo, this dude are holding like he's like holding records of Champions League goals scored. Like this guy's the real deal. Same thing, Marco Senna, like Carlos Mendez, who eventually later ended up becoming my coach at New York Cosmos, which we'll get there. But legends like that, like those, it was just really cool, the setup. And I'm just a little bit upset that the whole league diminished and it's not around anymore. But it was a lot of fun. And Connor Tobin as well, who's my teammate, he played for North Carolina. Neil Hlavy, who's my assistant coach here, he played for North Carolina. They played together at North Carolina. Played against them actually. So yeah, like Minnesota before they went MLS, they had a nice setup up there too, and that's where Ibarra was playing there before Klinsmann called him up.
Mm-hmm.
What's the striker's name that plays for Houston now that he was playing there? Christian Ramirez.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, like really good players, man. So the league in general is very strong, and there were no easy games at all. And it was just a lot of fun to be able to go experience those things and play in those meaningful games and compete for points with teammates that I still play for here. And yeah, so after Indy, so there was a transition in Indy where we let go of the first coach, Jürgen Sommer. Tim Regan stepped in. Kleberson. Okay. So this dude I played. And I'll always remember this because this is just like a really cool like experience for me. Was this is a World Cup winner. Kleberson is the 02. He played with all the best players in the world. They brought him in. He was our teammate. This dude, like in training, I'm telling you, like he would tell me like, look, just make your run. I will find you. And he would like, sometimes there would be plays where I wouldn't have to say anything to him and he wouldn't be looking at me. Dude, and he would literally put the ball exactly where I needed it. Yeah. And it was insane. Like there was this one play where in training, there was a ball played over the top, right? And this is like we're building up and we're playing like a scrimmage. Ball gets played over the top. He's in the midfield. There's a defender on his shoulder, on his left shoulder here. Ball comes over the top. He takes it down with his right foot. Bam! Holds the defender off, dude. And then he literally steps on the ball and like nutmegs the dude, turns over his opposite shoulder, and he's out of pressure. And I'm standing there like, Kleb. And he does it. I'm like, all right, he's got it. Like, I'll just
never mind.
You know? But the stuff that this man would do, it was unreal. It was just so cool to be able to play with guys on my team that played at very, very high levels, like a guy like Kleberson or any of those other guys that Brad Ring played at a very high level, very good player. Dylan Mayers, like we were stacked, we were so good. And then that was a segue, but we ended up letting go of our first coach, and then Tim Regan took over, and then Tim, at that Cosmos game that I scored, Tim ended up getting a red card, so he was suspended. The next game, Kleb took over as head coach because at that point he was dealing with some injuries. Kleb took over as head coach, and we were playing against North Carolina, and that's where Connor took one of my assistant coaches and a teammate of mine, so I played against them. And I ended up scoring, doing a better celebration, but Kleb was the coach. It was kind of a really cool memory of mine. So, and then after Kleb, that was just like a one-game thing for Kleb. We ended up bringing in Tim Hankinson, and there was a little bit of a transition between years because they were looking for a head coach. And this was 2016. I They were looking for a head coach. We were all on option years. They all signed our options, and they brought in Hankinson. Hankinson brought in some players, and it was just a different setting, different. Everything was a little bit different. I mean, same guys, with the exception of a couple core group that came in, and those were those were guys that were very, very experienced. They spent a lot of money to bring those guys in, and I was pretty much on the outside looking in. And so what ended up happening was we ended up going through the whole preseason. I ended up going over to go see Tim Hankinson, to go see some constructive criticism, to go get some constructive criticism on what I could improve, what I needed to do better, this and that. And for lack of, it just wasn't going to happen. Hankinson was not looking my way. He didn't really need me. So when I first heard those words, I was obviously upset because I really liked being at Indy and I wanted to be there, but it just wasn't going to happen. So at that point, I knew I needed to get out. At that point, I switched my representation. I wasn't with Bridges anymore. I was with Eddie Rock of Libero Sports. We were able to find OKC, and I ended up making my way out to OKC. And that was a lot of fun as well. OKC was also a good club, and they had really good players. And we were looking to do something special. The first year when I was there, well, I went there halfway through, so I got loaned out halfway through 16. And I ended up going out there. We ended up playing. Oh, Anis is on. What up, Anis? We ended up playing, making our way to the playoffs, and having some really good results. And then I showed enough to be able to sign a full deal with them for next year. So I had to eventually go back after my half a season loan with Indy, and I ended up going back, and we ended up going to the to the NASL finals, and we lost to the Cosmos, unfortunately. But that was really cool. That was a really cool experience too. So I ended up signing a full year deal to go to OKC, and that was 2017. And we brought in a good core group, the same core group from last year, from the year before, excuse me. And then we brought in some different players, and we had the right blend of guys to be able to do it. We had creative midfield players. We had a good back line where we were strong, but we were quick and we were fast and we were aggressive. Midfielders that could know how to control the tempo and the rhythm of the game. And we had strikers like Danny Koenig, wingers like Sebastian Dalgard that were very, very creative and very effective in terms of scoring goals, and obviously myself to help out as well. And we started the year off really well, and we ended up playing all the way through and making it to the playoffs. But before that, we were playing. That was 2017 is when I suffered my first real injury, which was when I broke my elbow. And that was like, for me, that was like a hard time to get through, I would say, because obviously I'm glad it happened the way it happened. Obviously, you don't want to ever be injured, but things happen in a game, and I ended up going up for a header. I was chasing a Hattie that game because I was on a brace, and I was being very aggressive on the field, and then I ended up going up for a header. And I ended up getting my legs swept out from underneath me, and I just fell on my elbow, and I shattered it pretty much. But it could have been a lot worse than it was, because if it wasn't my elbow, it could have been, something like a shoulder or something like that. So I'm just glad that I was able to get back to being myself as a player. But that transition was difficult because it was a good 13 weeks, 2.5 to 3 months where I know I could play because it wasn't my feet, it wasn't my legs. I could get all the touches and everything, but something as easy as literally bending my arm here and here, I couldn't do it. I literally couldn't do it. And even now today, I struggle with it. Certain very small things, they hurt. It's not that it hurts, but it's not the same. But it's as good as it will be, which is great because I can do everything. I can do a pull up, I can snatch. I can't I can't like throw. I can't do any sort of bar. I could do barbell work, but I'm not going to risk it because I can't throw my elbow all the way back. So
Right.
there was a point where like in the off seasons, I loved doing like CrossFit, and I love doing like the hang cleans and the snatches and all that stuff. But it's just it wouldn't work for me now. So I just use like a kettlebell, which is a little bit more forgiving. But the injury was hard.
Yeah, I think the injury is interesting in two ways because one, it forces you to take a break from playing, which like, I mean, when do we ever take a break from playing? But then the other thing too is like what you said, just moving your arm like, straight out, you couldn't do. And
Yeah.
it's like, as an athlete, you start to almost think of yourself sometimes as like invincible, and then just how like humbling it is to not be able to do like a simple thing like that.
I mean, you learn things about yourself that you didn't know before, and you appreciate your body for that. Like
100%.
simple mechanics, I wasn't able to do, and it was a different form of training that I was like rehab, physical training, physical therapy training that I wasn't used to, and that was kind of what I needed to perfect to be able to get back on the field, and I was doing things on the side, getting my touches in, whatever. But those 3 months were pretty difficult. But it was, I still had my mind set on coming back and helping the team. So I ended up coming back and scoring a few key goals in terms of securing playoff positioning. Then we drew Reno at Reno, and then I scored the only goal there. Which was probably, I would say, one of my nicest goals because it was like we ended up, Juan Pablo played a ball in. I dummied it to Miguel, who laid it off to me on a 1-2, and I just touched it and I freaking spanked this thing, and it just went literally top bins. It was dope. It was so dope. And then the next game against San Antonio, I scored a really nice header to send it into OT, and we ended up going into PKs, and we won PKs. Hi, Paulina. Hi, Monica. And then we ended up losing to Swope Park in the Western Conference Finals. But we were gassed at that point, dude. We were so gassed, bro.
Yeah, running on fumes.
And that field, dude, Children's Mercy Park, that field is gorgeous, beautiful, but it's so big, and we weren't used to playing on big fields. And like I said, we were gassed, dude, and it was 0-0, to be honest. It went to PKs. It was the craziest PK shootout ever. I ended up, thank God, scoring my PK. My mom to this day and my aunt were like, well, my mom wasn't at the stadium because she wasn't able to come out, but my aunt and all they were like, they turned around as soon as they saw me walking up. Cause I wasn't in the original 5. And then it ended up going all the way to keepers, yo.
Oh,
it literally ended up going all the way to keepers. So I ended up stepping up, and my mom was like, I couldn't even watch the TV. My aunt was at the stadium. She's like, I had to turn around. I couldn't even watch. And I was like, and they were like, oh, thank God you scored that PK, because if you didn't, man, I would have been. But I ended up scoring, and I ended up like giving them a shout out. So that was nice. That was kind of like a weight off my shoulders, because PKs are kind of stressful, to be honest.
Yeah, they're a little stress induced with those.
Yeah. So then after that following year in OKC, I was in between agents because at that point Eddie left Libero, and he's now with the Fire. And I was looking for some more representation. That's when the NASL fell apart. And then I ended up joining the New York Cosmos, which Carlos Mendez there was my coach. And I think I saw a question on the live. Hi, Sab. I think we saw a question on the live is where my favorite where was my favorite club that I played for. There's all the clubs that I've played for. Fantastic. I love them all. It's just New York Cosmos had something else to it, man. It was run the exact same way that in the old NASL days, like it was in the old NASL days. It was just, dude, it was so sick, dude. You walk into the locker room, you see pictures of Pelé, you see pictures of all these legends, dude, that played there. Raul. It's insane. In the same locker room, Danny Satella, who's been there for years now, Carlos Mendez, who's the coach who was once a player, like phenomenal coach. Phenomenal.
I mean,
coach.
it's just
awesome coach.
It's like going to like the Masters or something in golf. They're just such a rich tradition and history of being a part of that club.
Dude, so much history, and it's like you appreciate it a lot, but you don't really truly appreciate it until you see the jersey with your number and your name on the back,
sure.
and you put it on and you're playing, and they're telling you, okay, we're gonna play the Cosmos way. You're in it now, like, and and I was so stoked to be there, dude, and to play with guys like Danny Santella and Johnny Borajo, who played for Miami under under Nesta, who played for AC Milan. Like, it was so sick. It was so awesome, and it was great. Like, everything we did was the training sessions, the games, the structure, and the environment, the culture, everything was awesome. And it was just really cool to represent New York Cosmos. Like, I never in my wildest dreams, like, and that was a point, transitioning from OKC into what I thought was going to be. I thought I was going to get a good deal, yo. I was like, like, for better, for worse, I pretty much not carried the team through the playoffs, but I scored some pretty big time goals, so I thought I was going to be able to get somewhat of a decent contract. And then I was looking for different representation, like I was saying, and I was in between agents, and it didn't really work out in my favor. And I ended up signing up with PJ, and I give PJ all the credit because he does a phenomenal job. He's awesome. So shout out to PJ if PJ's listening. Highland Sports Management. He ended up I ended up getting me to the Cosmos. And it was a very good year. It was just so much fun, dude. So much fun to be able to represent such a historic club. And like I was saying, I've never thought in my wildest dreams that I would ever represent or be able to play with and be coached by so many great players and play with great players. But it was so much fun. It was awesome. It was a great learning experience. Got to meet Rocco too, who now Rocco is the owner of Fiorentina. Like, these are real people. Like, these are real people that I've had conversations with. It's awesome. So it was a really, really cool experience.
I think what's awesome too about, something like New York Cosmos compared to maybe some of the other clubs is so many of the clubs in the US are new clubs and don't have even maybe an identity yet. They're still trying to figure out what their traditions are. And so then the difference of that to being with a club that's just historically so great, I'm sure it's just an incredible experience.
Yeah, it was, and having a coach like Carlos, who's played in New York for so long. He was the Red Bulls, and then he was the Cosmos for forever. He knows exactly what the Cosmos are all about. From being a player to transitioning into a coach, like, it was 100% the Cosmos way. We weren't going to change for anybody, and I don't think they did before I came there, and that's why they're so successful. So it was just so good, so great to be able to experience the New York Cosmos way, and that was just awesome, man. It was so much fun. Yeah. And then from there, I ended up joining Hartford Athletic in their inaugural year. I was actually on trial in Poland when I got the contract offer because I was, again, in between teams, like so many of us are. And sometimes you ride waves, man. It's like a roller coaster. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's some days there's good, some days there's bad. But regardless, you still got to train. But all these thoughts are still going in your head. It can be kind of crazy kind of hard to be able to deal with all of it. So I was on trial overseas in Poland with a club team called Motor Lublin, which is east of Warsaw, like an hour east of Warsaw. And I was there, and they offered me a contract as well. They wanted to keep me there because I showed really well. And at that point, I've had Jimmy Nielsen, and Jimmy Nielsen was going to be the coach in Hartford, and he was the coach in OKC. So he knew of me. I knew of him. We've had a lot of success, playing and working together. So it was, and a lot of the guys from OKC, which is kind of funny. So all the Hartford fans are on here now. So on Twitter, they would say Hartford Athletic is the new OKC Energy, or it was like Hartford Energy. Hartford Energy, Johnny. Hartford Energy signed Wojtek Wojcik, Jose Angulo, Johnny Brown. There was like literally 7 or 8 of us. Alex Dixon. It was like insane. It was so funny.
Made the trek back to Hartford.
Yeah, and so we had a lot of high hopes and good expectations going into that Hartford year, but it wasn't what we thought it was going to be. And anytime it's the team's inaugural year, it's difficult. Certain things aren't set in stone. There's a lot of moving parts and variables that outside the field that needed to be taken care of and stuff like that. So those are things that were not in my control. So I didn't really worry too much about them. And Jimmy did it in the atmosphere that we all had together. So it took us a while to gel, and we didn't really get off to a hot start. but we ended up picking it up towards the end, and it was good. I ended up finishing leading goal scorer. Had a decent amount of assists as well, and similar to at previous clubs that I've been to, like Cosmos. Everyone knows who the Cosmos are, so the support there is phenomenal as well. Indy was phenomenal. OKC was phenomenal. Hartford was insane, though. Hartford was awesome because I think there's, other than the Yard Goats, which is like a minor league baseball team, Hartford doesn't really have any professional sports. You're either going to Boston to support or to support any teams, or you're going to New York because it's halfway and halfway. And so when Hartford Athletic came around, all these fans were just like there from like day one. They were there, like,
oh wow,
you supporter sections and everything, and we all did a really good job of making sure that we thanked them and went over there to every game, whether it was a win or a loss or a draw. We were there with them, they were there with us, and we all have them to thank for that, and it was just really cool. They made a sign for me as well. I don't know if I was a fan favorite, but I don't like to think myself as if I was, I have to say thank you. But it was just so much fun to be able to connect with all the fans there. There was also a very big Polish community there. They have a Little Poland. It's called Little Poland. It's in New Britain. So if you're ever out in the East Coast and you're ever going to go check out Connecticut, you should go check out Little Poland. It's cool. It's like one main street strip with like a bunch of Polish stores around it, and it was really cool, and I was able to connect with a lot of really, really cool, influential people out there, like Darek Barcikowski, who's the consulate there, to the Polish consulate out there. So we ended up having some conversations and organizing some stuff, and I was part of the Polish National Home as well, where I was able to get some people to come over to come after the game. We had a Polish night, which I think
I was gonna ask you about that.
Yeah, I know you guys saw that. It's funny because literally anytime I rewatch that video that I made, that commercial, it's like, when I obviously speak the language, but if someone doesn't speak Polish, all you hear is blah 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 blah, Polska Polska Polska, la 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 la, Polska Polska. And it's like, I showed up the next day and literally everyone was like, they were giving me a little bit of crap for it, but it was a lot of fun, man. There were so many. I think there was like 200, maybe 300 Polish people that showed up, and they all tailgated before the game, and I ended up going out there doing a podcast with Mike Furman. Shout out to Mike if you're listening or if you're watching. And it was just a really cool atmosphere, a really cool environment, and the support for the club was unbelievable. And I don't know if you saw or heard, but the supporters, the Hartford supporters, were supposed to come out to New England when we play against the Revs too. And I hope that still happens. I don't know with this whole COVID thing going on, but I hope to see everyone back in Hartford. Hartford will always hold a special place in my heart. That was a lot of fun, and we struggled on the field, but off the field it was a lot of fun to be able to connect with my teammates and the coaching staff and everyone involved with the project, but also more importantly the community and all the Polish people involved in there, and not only Polish people but all the supporters and everyone that came out to the games and came out and hung out with us when we were doing appearances or whatever. It's just people genuinely love the sport there, and they love coming out to games, and we averaged I think like 4,000 or 5,000 fans there as well. So I ended up scoring against Indy. There's scored some pretty nice goals there too, some late winners, some braces that won games, and it was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun. I don't know if I'll end up getting in trouble if I say this or not. I don't think I will, but it was a really cool story, so I'll say it anyway. So I don't know if this is because my girlfriend Aga comes in all the time, but every time Aga came in and she flew into Hartford, I would score. And this was, and just to give you a little bit of background, Aga's family own a dance studio, and she's very involved in dance, and she loves dance. And so do I as well, because I'm a part of these shows and all that stuff. If you watched and you keep up with me, I do all that stuff. And so Aga flew in, I think like a couple days before the Atlanta 2 game, and shout out Studio Jump. And so Aga ended up coming out, and Moulin Rouge. So there was a play called Moulin Rouge happening in New York, and we looked it up. it was going to be like apparently the most amazing thing, like the most amazing musical ever. We went to go see when I was in New York, when I was living in Long Island playing for Cosmos. We ended up going to see Aladdin, and it was like unreal. And then when I was in when Arga flew out to Hartford, she's like, we have to go see Moulin Rouge. Like, we have to go see it. Like, it's gonna be unreal. I'll have to send you some pictures and some photos. But dude, the entire theater was draped in red velvet. It was like a burlesque feel to it. Dude, it was so sick. So we ended up going out there the day before the game. The day before the game, we went out there, and it was like an 8 p.m. showing, 7 p.m. showing, whatever. We ended up going out there, staying for the whole show. Unreal. Like, we're sobbing, crying. There's so many emotions. It was really, really cool. If you could listen to the soundtrack on Spotify, so dope. And then we ended up getting home at like 3 a.m. in the morning on game day. 3 a.m.
Oh, wow. Uh-oh.
And I didn't start that game because I knew I wasn't going to start. So obviously, if it was different, if I knew I was going to be starting, I would have obviously not went. But I knew I wasn't going to be starting. So I was like, I know this is risky, but I'm doing it because I really love my girlfriend and I want to go see this. So we ended up going out there, getting back really late, slept in, ended up getting subbed in. We were down 1-0 against Atlanta. I ended up scoring to tie it, scoring to win it.
Whew.
And then literally, and that's the only reason why I'm saying it, because we won the game. I came off the bench and I scored a brace to win it, and that's when you saw the floss celebration. So, a lot of good memories. Yeah, I was saying I was so mad. I was really upset. I didn't really know what was gonna happen. All I knew is I needed to freaking score when I got in. So I scored 2, and we won the game. And all that matters. That's all she wrote.
If you score, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
You tell your coach you did that. The next game, he's telling you he's buying the tickets for you to go to a show before games.
I should have wagered that, to be honest, now that I think about it. But there were some really, really cool moments, man. We played against the Puerto Rico national team. That was really cool because there's a lot of the city of Hartford is very diverse. So there's a lot of Jamaicans, there's a lot of Puerto Ricans, there's a lot of Polish people, there's a lot of different ethnicities out there. And the Puerto Rico game drew a lot of fans. We also played against I forget the name of the Jamaican team that we played. But we ended up playing a team from the Jamaican Premier League, and there was a lot of fans there for that game too. So overall, it was a really, really cool experience. Scored some pretty cool goals. The Tampa Bay game was a really cool. That was probably one of my favorite goals because that header was just awesome, and it was just we would be in these games, and I knew I wasn't really getting. I wasn't in the beginning of the year. I was starting, and then I accepted my role as being the first guy to come off the bench. And this is now going into like doing what you can with what you can control, and not worrying about what you can't control, right? So, the decision for me to not start consistently, yes, that's on me because, I train every day hard, and that's on me. But sometimes maybe it's the way that the team that we're playing, or maybe the coach sees it one way or the other. That's his decision. That's not on me. Like, I can't control that. But what I can control is if I get in, then I have to make sure that I do what I need to do to be able to get to show that I am capable of being in the starting 11. So
100%. There
was a handful of games where I was coming off of the bench and scoring goals, and I accepted that role, and it was really fun because, at that point, I don't have to deal with it's not stressful, but I get to be able to sit back and watch the game. I get to be able to look at the center backs and be like, or the outside backs, and see where we expose space and how I can be able to be effective and find the right spots and timing and pockets to be able to be effective when I get in. So that's kind of what I would do. And I knew that Jimmy was going to be calling my name at one point or the other. I knew. And it was like the first time later in the year, I knew he was going to be calling my name. In the beginning of the year, not so much because I wasn't really producing much. But the first time he let me out, I did well, and then I started producing more. Maybe I got an assist. Maybe I scored a goal here or there. But I knew at one point or the other, Jimmy was going to be calling my name to go in. And so I kept thinking to myself, watching these games, I'm like, all right, I just need to take care of everything. I need to take care of all the small details, and then when it's my time to shine, I'm going to take that opportunity and I'm going to do it. So that was my mentality.
Trying to just stay ready.
Going into those games and understanding that I will get an opportunity to be able to do what I need to do. I just have to recognize when it comes when it's happening, when it's developing during the game. And I have to be able to stay focused and concentrate and switched on enough to be able to convert that opportunity. And on a couple occasions, I did that. And oftentimes more than once in like that Atlanta game and the Tampa Bay game, which was awesome. But it was, yeah, I mean, Hartford was awesome because, you know, we all deal with things individually and collectively as a team. But that was one thing that I was kind of upset about was, you know, I wish I was getting a little bit more playing time. But hey, if I don't get the playing time, I get in and I can help the team win or tie or whatever by scoring goals or getting an assist. Like I'll do that, and it ended up working out in my favor. I ended up finishing as the leading goal scorer, which is great. Pretty much, you can say arguably coming off the bench, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, and I have to think too, even going back to maybe your youth career, having some experiences where you weren't always playing when you were the youngest guy and learning to come in on being a role player, that you're able to better be prepared to have success no matter what situation you're given. Because you see some players, they're not starting and they come in as a sub and it's like they can't get into a rhythm, they can't contribute to the team, they get a couple outings and coach just puts them on the bench for the rest of the season.
Right. And look, I mean, rotations are a natural thing. Like I assume that when we come back and we start playing this USL 1 season, there is, I think 20 of us, 22 of us. And there's not that, I mean, I'm the only like true target forward striker. I mean, we could have we could look differently from game to game. And it is bound to happen because once we start playing, hopefully soon, it'll most likely be Wednesday, Saturday games. So there's no way that even if I wanted to play 90 minutes every game, which I hope to, you know, rotations are a natural part of the game. So whether you start the game on the bench or on the field, it doesn't matter. It's the way you finish it and the way you take care of things as it's happening, as it's developing. So it was good. And yes, I agree with you, man. All those past experiences helped me to be able to control and kind of like put things into my mind, into perspective, and you know how I can manage, you know, being in a certain situation at a certain time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Justin, what up? Should we take some questions or what?
Yeah, I got a couple too. Daryl Shore was, I think, quoted as saying essentially like last year they didn't have an out-and-out striker, and they're excited to you know have you in that role to score goals for the club. As a striker, you're used to a certain level of pressure. How do you deal with the pressure mentally and all? Because you know, other positions, if you can have success by things other than scoring a goal, but as a striker, you're kind of judged by assists and goals as the only thing.
Fortunately and unfortunately, that's the motto that I live by, right? You live and die by the amount of goals you score. But I don't necessarily. I mean, that's true, and it's not true, I guess you can say in a way, because you could take a look at like an Oliver Giroud, who didn't really score in the World Cup, but he did so much to help his team, World Cup winner. You know. And by no means am I comparing myself to Oliver Giroud. I think he's a fantastic player. But, you know, there's a lot of things that you can do on the field that can help your team be successful. For me, that's holding the ball and making sure I don't lose the ball and being that player to link and to be able to help the team break from sitting in our own half and transitioning from defending into attack. By holding the ball, keeping it, you know, whether that's playing the midfielder underneath, finding pockets to play those guys, finding the wingers, or whether I turn myself and I slip the winger in. But, you know, I feel like less is more. So as long as I can take care of what I need to take care of, and this goes back to like kind of what I was talking about in the Hartford thing, you know, control what you can control, trust your teammates to do what they can too, and then everything else will take care of itself. When you get the opportunity to get in front of goal and get a shot, to get a shot off or make a play, do it. And if it doesn't happen, for me, I'm in a position where I will get another chance, because I play as a striker. So you can't get caught up in your own emotions too much. Like that Reno game when I scored that banger in the warm-ups, literally I was hitting the balls like 20 yards over the crossbar. Bro, I was literally skying them, dude. I was skying them, and I was like, all right, I get it. Like, it's a stressful game. We're in the playoffs now. Just just get your mechanics down, dude. Just get your, and I would just hit them over, and I was just trying to figure it out. But towards the end, I got it down, and then it's just about staying calm and understanding the situation and knowing that your teammates are there to help you, and you're there to help your teammates, and control what you can control. For me, like I said, that's holding the ball, battling up top, being a presence in between the center backs, exposing the space in behind when it's on. If not, I check in between the lines to get a ball, touch, turn, play. If I could drop it to my midfielders, do that so they can face the game and then play a long ball in, or they could just keep possession, play the winger in out wide so he could set up for a 1v1, or maybe I could slip him in behind. These are all things that I think about when I'm looking and I'm playing, because I know I'm strong enough to hold off center backs. I know I'm good enough in the air to be able to win a ball. I have good enough feet to be able to keep possession, turn if I have space, dribble, find a pass, take a guy 1v1. It's just, for me, it's always about keeping the game as simple as possible, not doing too much. Obviously, sometimes you have to be selfish when you're in front of the goal, because I'm a striker, so you live and die by the goals you score. But I am also a guy that relies a lot on service, so I like to partake a lot in the build-up. Sometimes I get dragged out of position a lot, and I know that because I like the ball at my feet. So sometimes if I don't find myself getting enough love from my teammates from the ball, I will go find it. Like, I will drop into the midfield to go get it. I will go wide. I will switch with my winger. I will switch with the 7 or the 10 to stay out wide to just get it, give it, and then go again, because I feel like I need the ball at my feet.
Yeah.
But that's part of being the striker too, is, taking yourself out of the play, like making yourself seem like you're out of the play, but you're involved the whole time, and that's kind of like one thing that I feel like I've gotten better at, but I need to get better at is understanding that, I don't need to be part of the build-up so much. I can save my energy until we break into the attacking half, and then I could, use more of that energy to be able to get and be a little bit more active in terms of go finding the ball or doing the right things, laying a ball off 1-2 spinning. Maybe I'm the third runner. Maybe I slip the third runner in. I got to be in the box as a presence always, like always. If I'm not there, that means I'm not doing my job.
Yeah.
Like if the ball goes wide and I'm not in the box, there's something wrong. 100%, because for better or for worse, all of my goals come from service or in and around the box, so yeah. That's kind of my thinking is, control it. And that's what I think about. This is what I'll say to answer your question is control what you could control, right? Pay attention to the details within your position. And then when it is your time to shine and you find that opportunity and you've read the game and you see it developing and you see it, take it. And if it doesn't happen, you're going to get the next one. But you got to work together to be able to defend, to get the ball back, and then work together to score. It's not just me out there. It'll never be like I can't do it. I can't do it all myself, bro. I'm not fast. You see me run. I'm not fast, bro. I won't be able to. I'm quick, yes, but I'm not a speedster by any means. I have other things that I'm good at that other people may not are good at. My skills are one particular thing, but the blend and the mixture between the other 10 guys on the field is what makes the team successful, and having good cohesion and good work ethic and a good relationship and understanding with the rest of your team is the most important thing, because it's a game of numbers, man. You have to understand, where you are in the field. Understand, okay, maybe if we have an overload, if we drew all the pressure to one side of the field and we've got numbers on the other side, how fast can we get it there so we can expose space there? So it's a team game. I mean, as much as it is, yes, there are some very, very creative players in the USL Championship and even in the USL League One, which I'll have time to find out. But there are very creative players, and there are instances where it does become an individual matchup. But for the most part, it's a team game, and it always has been a team game. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, if people have questions, just type them.
I'm just gonna scroll through and see what's going on here. What do you think about Błaszczykowski buying Wisła Kraków? I think he's doing a good thing, man. He's a legend. That dude, that Dortmund team was unreal, man. Lewandowski, Piszczek, Błaszczykowski, Götze. What's his name? The other dude, Marco Reus.
Yeah.
Squad.
Amazing. Incredible team. We got some Bridges guys on, so I always ask everyone that's on from Bridges is name your 5-a-side team plus a goal.
Name my 5-a-side. All right. All right, I had
and
to.
no
I
MLS
knew as
guy.
soon as you started posting as soon as you started doing these podcasts, it was eventually going to come full circle, and I knew as soon as that Bridges five-a-side thing. That's clever, yo. That's really clever. So I knew it was
There's
going to
some
come my way.
salty people. There's some salty people
Oh
on
no.
being put
Am
on.
I am I about to make some people mad?
I luckily we got a little break before Bridges starts.
All right. Let me think. All right, my five-a-side. Goalkeeper. I don't know if you remember this guy, but his name is Peter Schliva. He's a really good goalkeeper, dude. Really good with his feet. And he plays indoor, so I don't know if I can have him as my keeper, but he's been.
I played with him in Canada once in a Croatian tournament. He's good. Yeah. He's a good keeper.
So I would take my goalkeeper is Peter Schliva because he's very familiar with the indoor game. He's a very good goalkeeper, and he's very good with his feet. He's almost like a field player, and he has very good distribution. He has very good reflexes. He can handle pretty much anything in the goal that comes his way. My back, so I'm going to go 2-2-1. Going right back, I'm going Pat McMahon, and left back, I'm going Shantosh. I'm going with the Louisville connection there.
Louisville.
And then my midfield two, I'm going to go David Abador, and I'm going to go with Anis in his prime.
Okay.
Anis in his prime, and then I'm staying up top.
If you're not in, who are you putting up as striker?
If I'm not in, I would actually put Derek up there. Derek, when Derek wants to play, Derek is really good.
Yeah, when he's on fire, no one's stopping him in indoor.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. You were talking a little bit about
yo, he literally just commented, "I'm so washed up."
You were talking about dancing.
Honest, since you're on, bro, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Honest. You were talking about dancing and all. How do you think that's contributed to your ability to hold the ball up, be mobile on the field, all of that? You think it's played a part?
The dancing?
Yeah.
I mean, in many ways, would you not argue that soccer is dance, just with the ball at your feet?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of way I think about it. Between the flexibility and the mobility thing of being able to do certain things, but it's very similar. I mean, look, in soccer you have tactics, in dance you have choreography. So you have to be able to learn how to count, memorize choreography, and then also if there's any what do they call that, line changes between the group, you have to be able to understand how to do that, and also keep your spacing, because if we're dancing together and you're in front of me, right, I'm not going to be dancing directly behind you. I have to be dancing off to the side of you because no one's going to be able to see if they're watching. So it's about spacing and orientation. One is about memorizing choreography. Two, and it's just about being able to fully engage and pull yourself up there. I mean, just like on the field. This is a really cool story because I don't think you know this about me either. I don't think many that are tuning in don't know as well, other than Honest, because I think I may have told Honest this. But going along with the whole soccer thing, the dance thing. So Aga went to Columbia College in Chicago, and her sister did as well, and they got dance degrees, and they're doing a really, really good job with the studio right now. But there was a moment in time where, have you ever heard of the Paris Opera Ballet?
Yeah.
Okay, so just to give you an equivalent, the Paris Opera Ballet, in terms of soccer, would be like the Real Madrids or the Barcelonas of the world. All right, so Paris Opera Ballet was doing a worldwide tour, and they were doing a U.S. tour, and Chicago was one of their stops. So Aga found out about this, and they were doing a piece in the show called Bolero, which is one dude dancing on a big red table, and there's like 30 other guys. Like, so if I'm the guy dancing on the red table, there's like 30, like another group of dudes like in chairs dancing behind them in a square. You know what I'm saying? Can you picture that? Yeah. So you can look it up online. It's actually really cool. And so that was the piece that they were doing, and they needed people to audition because they were taking people, like they needed dancers to audition, and I wasn't planning on doing any of this. And Aga was like, listen, if you don't do this, you first of all, you don't understand what the Paris, and at that point I didn't understand until she explained it to me. And she told me exactly what I told you. Like, it's the biggest and oldest, most historic like dance company to ever do it. It's basically like if you were to be playing for Real Madrid, blah blah blah. So she's like, if you don't go, it's pretty much over. You're going. I was like, all right, I'm going. And then I ended up auditioning for the dance, and I ended up getting it. Well, me and my friend went. Another one of my buddies that danced with in the studio as well. We ended up going and auditioning together, and we ended up getting in. And they hired us to dance, dude. And it was, bro, like, dude, it was the stuff that those dancers, dude, can do. Like, think about like if you were to go to train with a Real Madrid, like just watching them train and you being on the field them training, like. I was there while they were doing the rehearsals or while they were stretching or whatever. Dude, like literally a ballerina would like walk up to a wall and just throw her leg up and just like do a split.
Yeah.
Standing, just to, like stretch her. It was sick, dude. But that was kind of one of the things I learned in terms of how the dance and the soccer relates to each other is, you know, you have a job to do. Whether that's, you know, you're on the soccer field and you're playing a specific role, or whether you're dancing and you have choreography and you're doing a specific role, but you have to take what your role is and just fully
embrace it.
Just embrace it and just lose yourself in the role. And if you can do that, it'll be at its most original and authentic to you, which is first and foremost the most important. But that is what you'll translate, and that's what you'll emanate to people watching, is the most original version of yourself is if you just completely lose yourself in it. So that's kind of my mentality when I'm dancing on the stage. Is the first couple times, obviously it's a little bit harder because the lights are all on you and you're just like, you can't see the audience, which is probably a better thing if you can't, because it's really dark and the spotlight's on you if you're dancing, or the lights, and you don't see the audience. But when you're on that stage, it's just you and the music, man. That's pretty much all it is, dude. And just like it is when you're on the field, it's just you and your 10 other teammates and your 11 opponents and the ball, and you have to figure it out. And that's kind of the one thing I learned, and I take with me everywhere, every club that I've been to, every time I play a game is, you know, I want to be the most original. I want to be myself on the field. And I want to be myself when I'm dancing, and that's what I am. And I'm very fortunate to be able to do that with the person that I love, which is my girlfriend. Because sometimes we danced last show together. We did like a little piece together, so it was really cool. And any of my teammates, including yourself, that I've had the opportunity of training with or playing with in the off seasons, that's the mentality I have. Is you know, I want to be. I want to be successful, but I also want to help my team and my teammates be successful as well. So, it like we spoke about earlier, it's as much of a team game as it is an individual game. But you know, there's times where it does become individual, and you have to be able to motivate yourself, man. You know, and it's not easy sometimes. You know, there's certain things that are sometimes out of your control, or there's things happening in your life where it becomes a little bit harder to deal with those things, or maybe it's harder to motivate yourself to get going. But for me, it's always been very easy to just lose myself in the sport, because that's always how it's been for me ever since I went to that first training with Eagles. And that's how it is now, dude. When I go out to the field, or whether I'm by myself or whether I'm coaching or training kids, it's I am in my element. I am nowhere else I would rather be, other than being with my family and my girlfriend. And it's just something that I genuinely love doing. I genuinely like to, you know, obviously be successful, but what really makes me happy is the team winning games, obviously scoring goals, because that's my responsibility, but fighting and battling and competing together, 11 guys, it's something very special if you're able to do it on a high level, for a very successful team. And in my experiences, I've had a lot of success, but I've also gone through some struggles, and the struggles, as much as the good times, the times where you struggle is where your true character is shown. And you know, you probably know just as much as yourself that I use anger to my advantage, but sometimes I can get lost in that, and that's something that I still try to work on. But it's just about playing the team game and working on continuously developing yourself and winning games, man. Winning games and scoring goals for me.
100%. 100%.
Honest is not too happy with me right now. Sorry if I keep talking too long. We can finish it up if you want.
I just was going to ask if you have any final thoughts, anything that, you know, if you were talking to a 15-year-old self, what would you tell yourself? What advice? We'll end on that question.
What would I tell myself? I would say don't be afraid to ask questions. Like, you know, so what other people want of you. You know, at different teams, sometimes you spend too much time trying to figure out by yourself in your own head, thinking about what the coach wants or, you know, how he wants things done. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay for someone to say no, but if you don't ask, you'll never get the answer. I think another part of it is just enjoy being in the presence of your teammates and just enjoy the process of getting better. And like that's as simple as it gets. And from day to day, there's ups and downs, but just know that your teammates are there to help you, and I'm there to help my teammates as well. And winning is one thing, but developing into better people and players is another thing. And you know, the goal this year is to win the USL League One, and the goal this year is to score as many goals as possible. That's the goal every year, but that's what I work for. That's what we all work for, and I'll keep working for until it starts showing, man. And I hope that shows this year and every year to come that I keep playing.
Awesome. Yeah, excited. Hopefully you guys get back soon into your season so we can see you out on the field balling it out for Forward Madison.
Yeah. Sorry, I was lost in the comments. Yes, dude. I thank you, man. I appreciate it. Good luck to you in the season. Hopefully, you know, we pick things up pretty fast here, but who knows? The most important thing is to stay safe and stay healthy. So, yeah, dude. So you come back to Chicago in the off seasons or no? Or you stay out there?
So I live in Florida now, so I'm there for 4 months in the off season, just hanging out. I coach a high school team.
I love that.
It's fun. It's a fun time. It's a lot different, but it's a good time with them. So,
awesome.
But I'll be up in Chicago maybe once or twice this off season. I got to stop into Bridges.
Of course. Colin Kirk, he just came on. What up, Colin?
What a legend right there.
Yeah, dude. He still goes, dude. He still goes to Bridges. He shows up every so often. Every time he does, I always want him on my team.
Colin shows up for that Friday to like get the workout before the weekend.
On the Friday when everyone's already beat up from putting the load on during the week, dude.
Love it.
What up, fam? Yeah, Colin, Q. I wish Q would come on Fridays too, man.
That's what Colin's got to convince him.
Honest is telling me to hurry up, dude. Honest is telling me to finish up, to wrap it up. I'm sorry, Honest. I take a long time. This is my first actual really live thing. Oh no, because I do the. Oh, if you guys are interested, I'm gonna plug in the club.
Yeah, plug it.
I'm plugging the club in. All right. So Forward Madison, I do. Me and my roommate Eli, we do Flamingo Flex Fridays. So if you guys are looking to get in a workout, tune in tomorrow, 4 p.m. Central on Forward Madison's Facebook Live. We will be doing it every Friday. We've been doing it Friday for like three or four Fridays now in a row. So if you guys have any good ideas, or if you guys want to see some stuff, just shoot me a DM or just reach out to me. But yes, tomorrow, 4 p.m. Central Time, Flamingo Flex Friday. If you want more of myself, my roommate Eli, he's a cool kid. He's a cool dude, really nice guy, great teammate. We'll be doing live workouts. So tomorrow, awesome. 4 p.m. Central, Flamingo Flex Friday. Matt, thank you for having me, bro.
Thank you.
Really appreciate this time, dude.
Yeah, man. Thanks for all your stories. I appreciate them. Great stories to have.
But the Bridges 5 aside, that one, when I saw that, I was like, dude, genius.
It's incredible. I love that question.
Yeah.
All right, man. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, bye.